Hey Homeworthy, I'm interior designer Mikel Welch and welcome to my home in Los Angeles. Let's take a look.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Brent.
I'm Beau.
Welcome to our home in Pasadena.
Come on in.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Camille.
And I'm Marco. Welcome to our first home in Cardiff by the Sea.
Come on in, we'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm interior designer and author Mikel Welch, and this is my Cotswold-inspired house. Welcome. When I saw the house initially, I was just like, oh, okay. You know, it had a buttercream yellow exterior. I remember the kitchen was pink. There was carpet everywhere and it was just extremely dated. But there was something that just continued to draw me to the house. It's a 1920s Tudor home. And it just had all of the character and charm that I felt would be in an English countryside home. And so as I began to walk the space, I'm like, you know, I think there's some room for opportunity here. And I just really need to lean into it. It's a small two-door home. It has beautiful windows that just kind of open up to the front yard. And as you begin to walk through, you know, it has a beautiful living room. It had this original fireplace. Unfortunately, it didn't work, but I'm like, I think we can do something with that. And, you know, I just began to continue to walk the house. And as I walked through, I just remembered telling myself, it has good bones. And I had to keep repeating that because initially when I walked into the space, I wanted to walk back out. But I just repeated to myself, the space has good bones. And I just began to work on it immediately. I call my design style primitive modern. I'm someone who likes to take pieces from the past and, you know, merge and throw in a few newer items as well. So when I designed this particular space, I decided to go a little deeper and channel my love of the Cotswolds in England. So over the past 5 years, me and a group of friends, we take a yearly trip for about 2 weeks. As a matter of fact, I just came back from the Cotswolds and I just fell in love with the charm in the little villages. You know, just the way that the patterns are mixed and, you know, the colors that they use. And it's just a relaxing way of life for the most part. And I wanted to bring as much as I could from that experience. So this is the living room, and one of the first things that you see when you walk into the space is this bookcase. I am a huge lover of antiques, and so I wanted to initially put a few items that I fell in love with, but it slowly over time became a space where I began collecting books from all of my design friends like Amber Lewis and Vern Yip, and so now this has kind of become like a shrine for all my design friends. On the top of the bookcase, these are all a bunch of vintage pieces that I absolutely love. This is a suitcase that is from Asia, and this would have been from the early like 1910s, and it would have been used for someone who might have been, you know, traveling across the world as their actual suitcase. And it has these beautiful coconut fibers that have been woven. I mean, the detail in this piece is just absolutely stunning. This piece of artwork I just found so interesting. It looks like, you know, these three gentlemen who are in the middle of this like serious debate, but it kind of brought some humor and joy to me because I'm wondering what they're arguing about. And I thought when I saw this, I was in a antique shop in Arizona, and I'm like, I absolutely have to have this piece. And so I picked it up. But the thing I love about this area, you know, it's just like the Georgian architecture in this bookcase. I am someone who likes to also pull in the unexpected. So I'm notorious for placing artwork in the center of a bookcase just because it causes controversy. It makes you stop and people want to question what's going on. This is just like this interesting traveler. He kind of reminded me of myself in the sense that I'm always on a quest to travel somewhere. And I just kind of like the picture. So that's why it landed here. So directly next to the bookcase is what I like to call my get ready area. This is a custom bench that I had made for a designer show house in New York. And it's kind of traveled with me. I constantly change out the fabric, but this is the place where I kind of sit and regroup in the morning, like right before I take the dog out. This is where I tie my shoes. And I didn't want to just have just like this plain bench. And so I'm all about like, I'm someone who has lots of neutrals with the paint colors that I choose. And so I like to incorporate color and pattern and texture throughout the pillows. And so the pillows honestly are the star of the show when it comes to this particular area. And I have a combination. Some of these pieces, you know, I picked up at a few local markets, and then others I found on Etsy. I'm really big on makers and people who actually make items. And so I'm always trying to find interesting ways to showcase different designers. I'm a huge fan of Rembrandt. My pocketbook doesn't allow me to have a Rembrandt at the minute, but this is a Rembrandt print that I've had for a while, and I just take that with me. And I just love this cute little window. This is just like one of the smallest windows in the world, but I do get a lot of, not a lot, I get some sunlight from my neighbor's house that's blocking me over here. But it's just a sweet little moment. In my head, it's like a little bay window, but I just like to sit here oftentimes and just kind of peer and look at that picture and almost think about, you know, that person who lived in that house here. And it's like, hey, my house kind of feels like that house. So I do spend a lot of time right here. I do live in an older home, so I have to get very clever and tricky with a lot of things. So this is actually my heater. I don't have the heater on, of course, at the moment, but I like to take pieces of linen fabric and just kind of drape them over the top of the air conditioner, the heaters, etc. Just because with these old houses, it would just be too cumbersome to tear the house up to have actual central heating and air. But I just love this vignette. It's just another quiet moment that just, you know, showcases a few items that I love. I'm really big on vintage books as well. I love like little miniature books. And I love to collect miniature books because it's always fun just to see the little stories that they have here. So this is my collection of books that I love. So as we begin to walk throughout the rest of the space in the living area, one of the things that you'll probably begin to notice is that it's a bit darker in the space. And that's because of the ceiling. So I wanted to keep the original ceiling beams that the house had. I didn't want to stain them. I didn't want to touch them. And so these are the original beams. And I love how the way that they have been crossed. So you have a couple of beams that have been recessed a little bit lower. And I really love the hardware in these beams. I mean, you can see the plate as well as the bolt. Like, this is the good stuff. They don't make it like this anymore. And so I just wanted to kind of pay homage to the original architecture in the home. This is a beautiful cabinet. It's an Asian style cabinet, and you can see that whoever designed this piece, they notched out several squares in repetition. Everything almost looks perfect. And I love these grommets. It's like, you know, these grommets, oh gosh, it's like these have been here for centuries, but just the detail in this piece alone. And I love the kind of like, typically we whitewash items, but whoever owned this piece kind of did like a pink or a red wash. So you can kind of see the undertones here. And I just love how that pink or red paint has given a new life to the front of this cabinet. Right next to that is, again, huge fan of Rembrandt. I have a Rembrandt print here. And then directly below it, I got obsessed recently with brutalist style Spanish chairs. And my goal is just to collect several of these chairs. They don't all have to tell the same story, which is fine with me. But I just love the old leather and the patina and the way that it wears. Like this almost looks like it was branded at one point. And I just love how it kind of has these grooves and almost this like wave-like, design in the legs. And this is just like perfection for me. So I absolutely love this piece. As a matter of fact, I found it at the Pasadena Rose Bowl flea market, and I like literally picked it up and like carried it on my head to the car. I have so many of those little small moments that I love in my living area. One of the stars of the show in the living room has to be the fireplace, and I did a huge poll on Instagram about the fireplace because I was going back and forth because of the inconsistency in the brick. You can see here at one point this was a functioning fireplace because I can see how dark this these bricks are here, but then something happened. I don't know if there was another type of face that was here, but you can see the brick color is completely different. It's a different style of brick. So I didn't know if I should plaster over it. And so you can see here, I did like a little test swatch. And then all of a sudden I said, stop. You know what? This is one of those pieces that just needs to live on its own. It's a natural part of the house. Just let it be. And I ended up using my set design brain. And anytime on a set on television, when we have a fireplace that we're building on screen, we will, load it up with logs, and that's exactly what I did here. And this just, adds a feature wall to this area over here. Absolutely love my fireplace. And on top of the mantle here, I've just added several pieces that I love. I'm also a huge lover of iron candle sticks and candle holders, and so you'll see a lot of those kind of prominent throughout the house. I also needed to bring in extra sources of light. I am someone who likes ambient light, and I found these really cute rechargeable lights. And so like literally I charge them at night, and these give me extra light. And so you'll see them all throughout the house because I am obsessed with these lights. The main reason I needed a light was in this particular corner is my favorite reading chair, because I am someone who actually sits in the living room and I will read. This is it's crazy to call RH vintage, but this is a 20-year-old chair, and it has beautiful curvature, but I just felt like I wanted something a little more dramatic as a designer. So I took a drop cloth that I got online and I put it in the washer with some fabric softener, which really softened it up. And I just draped it over the top, almost as if someone was about to move the chair and decided to stop. And I think it adds this like theatrical flair. Anytime anyone comes into the house, the first thing they ask about is this chair. And they're like, oh my gosh, where did you get that chair from? But it's really just the drop cloth that's selling that chair over here. So this is my sofa, and I don't even know if I should call it my sofa. I should really call it my dog's bed, because she spends more time on this piece more so than anybody. This is a beautiful slip-covered velvet sofa that I have. It started out as linen, but I constantly change out the fabric. I wanted something that was rich and grounded the space, and I felt like, with the dark ceilings here, that chocolate brown would do it justice. And then I've just done a mix and match of pillows. I've got my Cotswold-inspired, floral pillows. I've got some that's got like a toile background, and then a few other neutrals. I'm a big fan of fringe, and I picked these up at Soho Home. And I just love any type of, again, just like Cotswold English countryside style pillow. I'm all about layering those textures, because most of these items are predominantly neutral, and anytime you have neutrals, you just need a ton of pattern, or else everything falls extremely flat. My design aesthetic is one that I call primitive modern. So I kind of have this rule where for every modern item, I like to mix a vintage item, or at least something that feels vintage inspired. So with the sofa being new, the coffee table, this is a travertine coffee table. Now, I will say this table is new, but it is inspired by a 1950s design. So it gives you the illusion that it's an older piece. But I do have this vintage Persian rug. And so anytime I'm mixing my designs together, for every new piece, I like to pair it with something that's a bit older. And that's kind of how I've gotten my style to become primitive modern. So this is one of my favorite console tables. This is kind of like a staple in all of my designs because I've had this piece for almost 10 years. This is a beautiful hammered metal that's been powder coated in a matte black. And I have used this in the show house, and then it became a part of my house. But I just love how the metal has been hammered in such a manner that, you know, it looks like artisans did this, you know, in primitive days, but, you know, found a way to make it modern. And then I just housed a couple of Asian cymbal drums on the bottom where I just kind of put all of my whatnots. I'm really big on greenery, so you will see lots of greenery in the space like here. This is a hollowed out wood stump that I have turned into somewhat of a vase, and you'll always see some dramatic foliage here. And, you know, I've got this beautiful modern, you know, ribbon design here. And then this guy is actually one of my favorites. I feel like he watches over the house. So this statue I picked up at the Pasadena flea market. I feel like everything I've gotten is at the Pasadena flea market. But what was interesting is the facial features. It kind of reminded me of an African-American man like myself. So the moment I saw it, I'm like, he's got to come with me. So that's my brother Fred, and he watches over the house. Woo, that renovation process was a doozy. This is the first time I've actually demoed a space while living in it at the same time, and I have a new appreciation for demo as well as my clients who put up with the things that we request as designers. One of the first things that I needed to do was to rearrange the configuration in the space. The home is really small. I only have like 8-foot ceilings, so we had to get extremely creative. I didn't like where the bathroom was initially located. So there was a bathroom on this first floor, but the configuration was just really off. I also didn't love how the washroom just felt like it took up a majority of the back of the home. So I ended up rearranging things where the washroom ended up becoming an additional bathroom. And then the kitchen, I was able to shorten it just a bit, but it made sense. Upstairs was another area of concern. I wanted to make sure that I had 2 bathrooms, and upstairs there was kind of like a utility sink, but it just didn't make sense. Like, I mean, I guess if you're gonna just wash your hands in the hallway and walk downstairs, okay, fine, but there's just a sink upstairs that was random. So I knew there was a water connection and we would be able to work with a shower. So that part was hard because I had to sacrifice one of my closets in order to create a shower. So after some thought, I'm like, okay, yes, this is the main area where you'll be going to the restroom. Make it everything that you want. So I began to next work on the bathroom. Once I got the bathroom done, that's when things began to gel. You know, of course, with the paint, I did keep a lot of the original architecture in the home as much as possible, so I didn't touch any of the ceilings. Now, when we got outside in the backyard, that's where I really had to put a lot of work and effort. There were pavers everywhere. It was just disjointed in the sense that there were just shrubs and bushes and vines and just all types of fruits and vegetables that it didn't aesthetically make sense. I'm sure the previous homeowner just picked things that they love and they placed them everywhere in the backyard. And so I challenged myself with coming up with a functional and a creative way to make sure that that backyard would be some place where I would want to invite people. And to be honest, now it becomes a place where I spend 90% of my time. So now we're walking into my dining room, and I'm very proud of this dining room. This room initially started out all white, and I began to like layer over time. So the first thing that I wanted was something visually commanding, and initially I thought about painting the walls a fun color, but that just wasn't enough. So I went online and I found a beautiful mural wallpaper, and I'm like, that's the one. I want this all throughout the entire dining room. Now, what's nice about the wallpaper that I chose, it's a mural scene, but I went kind of with like this taupe and olive green. So it's not just beige. So it has these layers of green that are all throughout this story that wraps the entire dining room. The dining room was also one of the trickiest spaces for me, because as you can see, when I lift my hand, I can touch the ceiling. So trying to find a chandelier that could work in this space, that was a tremendous undertaking. It was actually one of the most difficult things that I had to do. I played with about 4 different chandeliers. A few of them are in the garage right now because I cannot return them. But this ended up being the answer. And what I love are these milk glass, kind of like smoky gray glasses that are all individually hung in order to create this 2-tier chandelier. Directly up under that is my dining table. I should say now is my dining table. This is another antique that I picked up in New York, and it's been traveling with me from, you know, home to home to home. Sometimes it's a console table, other times it's a work desk, and now it's a dining table here in California. Being that this piece is more of an antique, I did want to go a little more modern with the dining chairs, and so I went with these beautiful curved arm dining chairs. I love the just clean upholstery and just the way that the wood on the arms just kind of wrap themselves around this chair. It's kind of got this nice kind of like elegant feel to it, where it's not too stuffy. And then that's the one thing I will say when I design my spaces. I want things that are elegant and they feel refined, but at the same time they shouldn't feel stuffy. So you've got this refined chair with this rustic table, and already when you walk into the space, it doesn't feel as formal. And I know a lot of people don't like to put rugs in the dining area, but I do. And my dog, she loves this rug. But I just went with a neutral diamond pattern just because I felt like it wouldn't fight with everything else that you see with the wallpaper. In this corner here, this is a pedestal that I added. I'm big on pedestals and I like statement pieces. So this piece looks very expensive and it looks like, you know, it's from an art gallery, but I found this in a vintage shop and it's paper mache. And, you know, I just love to add theatrical greenery. The thing I love about this particular greenery is that when you stand back and look, it almost looks like the greenery is cascading into the wallpaper, and it creates, you know, this like 3D effect when you're walking through the dining room. So, you know, my career and journey into interior design is very interesting. I went a non-traditional route. I went to college because I felt like that's what you're supposed to do. And afterwards, I ended up with a degree in marketing and did not know what to do. So I remember having a conversation with my mother, and she said, you need to find your passion and you'll know what it is because it'll be something that you'd be willing to do for free. Well, obviously, just out of college, you don't want to do anything for free. You're just looking to, you know, pay the bills. And so I ended up taking a position at Bloomingdale's as a sales associate. And one day on my lunch break, I found myself in Crate and Barrel, and I had spent 40 of my 45-minute break in the store, and I had like 5 minutes to eat, and there was no way possible that was going to happen. But I had this like Oprah aha moment, and it was one of those montages where I began to think about all things design, all of the design magazines I had stacked up in my home, and all of these accessories that I had purchased. I don't have a client, they're just things I love that were sitting in a closet, and I ended up saying, this is something that you love. I ended up applying for a position on something that was new to the world called Craigslist, and there was a gentleman looking for a design assistant, and I got the job with him, and we literally staged model homes, and I did that for about a year. And after a year, something dawned on me, and I'm like, I don't know that I necessarily need him. He taught me the ropes. He taught me how to conduct consultations, because it was just the two of us, so I learned so much. So I ended up going on Craigslist myself, and I would offer to design one free room as long as people paid for the furniture. And that's how I began my design career and building a design portfolio. I've had so many moments where I felt like this is the one, and that's the beautiful thing that I love about life. It's, every time I think I've hit this big moment, something else bigger happens. Well, during my journey through life, I ended up getting a job as a set decorator on Emily Henderson's show. She had just won HGTV Design Star, and that was my first time I got exposure into television. And I just learned so much about set design. And from that opportunity, I ended up getting a job as a set decorator back in New York City, where I worked for what was the Style Network. Now I am the design expert for the Drew Barrymore Show. I joined what we call the Drew Crew with the Drew Barrymore Show, where I do the makeovers on the show. So it could be, me surprising a lucky family with a makeover, or maybe we're showing someone how to, create a DIY backsplash on the stage. And I've been with the show now since day one, and we're 6 years in. So, fast forward to today, my design career is completely different than, my original world of Craigslist. I have my firm, Mikel Welch Designs, as well as my antique showroom, Mikel Welch Home in New York City. Over the past few years, I've been very fortunate to be able to participate in the Kips Bay Designer Show House. With my design firm, we do projects all across the world, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love. And I've really been leaning into the love of antiques, and so I recently opened up Mikel Welch Home at 200 Lex in New York City, where I specialize in European antiques. And my hopes is to retire as, this old curmudgeon who, just goes to Europe, he grabs his antiques, he ships them to the US, and I can live happily in the Cotswolds. So now we are outside, and I'm going to be honest with you. I spend more time in this part of the entire house than I do anywhere else. I'm constantly entertaining, as you can see. So when you first come out of the space, I have this beautiful dining table from Azzurro Living. The reason I fell in love with this piece is because it had the steel base, but then the stone top, and I just love that it kind of has this kind of whitewashed effect to it. This is the space where when I have family and friends over, we're all congregating here, having brunch, having lunch or dinner. And I just love to entertain and have everybody sitting here laughing. I'm hosting Christmas this year, so we will have our, outdoor Christmas and Thanksgiving here. Another thing that people absolutely love is the garden area. This is my garden table. And again, I said, I love things that aren't perfect. This is a really old vintage table that a friend gifted to me that was her grandfather's, and it's like over 100 years. It's falling apart in some places, but I love it. It just has all the patina, it has all of the character, and I actually plant a nice number of my fruits and vegetables in this space. I went out and I picked the baskets, but it was important for me just to hold this piece here at the home because it is my friend's, and I just like to bring in things that make sense for me. I make a lot of cocktails that have mint or lavender. And so you'll see a lot of that on this table. Now, there's definitely an elephant in the room, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. So this is my outdoor bathtub. I mean, when you talk about the English countryside, nothing says English countryside like an outdoor bathtub. I took a trip to the Soho farmhouse, and they have outdoor baths. And I'm like, when it's my turn to design my house, I want an outdoor bathtub. So I found this beautiful cast iron tub at Kohler, and they work with me to, put this piece out here. And then I work with Timber Tech to make sure I could build a structure that could house the piece. And literally, I take a bath every morning. I come out here, I listen to my classical music before I start my day. And this is where I spend so much of my time. And it's so funny because it started out as just a bathtub, but now when I host, we fill the bathtub with ice and we'll put our champagne and whatnot here. So this is definitely one of the main features of the backyard that I just absolutely love. I take a bath every day. Now we're in kind of my pebble garden, as I like to call it. When I first got to the house, this was nothing but shrubs everywhere. So I ripped up the shrubs, I removed all of the pavers, and I laid out all of the pebble so that I could create a living area. Again, this is from the company Azzurro Living. And the thing that I loved about the design of all of their pieces is they kind of had this traditional welding to them, but the boxy frame made it extremely modern. And I sit out here, again, I read a lot, and this is where me and my friends kind of congregate and have a couple of quick bites before we have dinner. But this is another area that was key for me. I wanted to have a living area outside that felt comfortable and inviting. This is a place where I can come, I can do a little work, and I feel like I'm on vacation. I literally feel like I'm in the English countryside when I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the beautiful herb garden. I can see the bathtub. This is just the prime seat when you're here in the backyard. But there's one thing that you really have to see, and this is my outdoor living suite. This right here, this is the real star of the show. So this outdoor living suite is by a company called Heston, and I work with them to create this custom bar. And what's awesome about it is, they first, when you're just looking at it from the outside or in the front, they added this custom railing to me to match the refrigerator, and I was able to add bar stools here. They've got the foot rail, and it gives me a couple of options with burners. I can sit here and I can grill a whole dinner, or if I want, I can remove this cover here and I can place a few things on the eye. And then of course, with me entertaining, I'm always making cocktails. So I work really hard on putting this together, and I'm so excited with how it turned out. It's so much fun when I'm over here making cocktails or making food, and I can sit here and talk to my friends. And then of course, it does get chilly here in the evening, so I'm constantly lighting a fire here towards that dusk hour so that we can just have a great time. And that's one of the things I really fell in love about this house. It was the outdoor space. This is the area where I knew I could make this feel like the Soho farmhouse, the Double Red Duke, all of the things that I love in my vacation, visits. I wanted to bring them to this house, and that's what I did here. Well, in terms of signature dishes, I typically gravitate towards Mediterranean food. So any type of Mediterranean dish, I do lots of salads, and then I also do a lot of kebabs and grilled meat and pita bread. So if you come to the house, you're having Mediterranean food. So now we're entering the kitchen. This is probably one of the most difficult spaces that I had to tackle when designing the home. It's a really small, narrow kitchen, and you can only do so much. I'm someone who loves to cook. So as you can see, I have this massive refrigerator. I work with Heston Corporation, and they do commercial grade appliances, and because I love to cook, I'm like, I want the good stuff, and I just need to figure out how to make everything else like kind of work around that. So you can kind of see with the cabinetry here, I went with really light cabinets. I felt like trend wise, this is on par with the design world right now. I know we used to do darker cabinets, but now everything is beginning, you know, to be a bit lighter. I did do a Carrara marble finish for the countertops as well as the backsplash all throughout the kitchen. And initially I was trying to think about or thought about doing upper cabinets, but I felt like it would just be too bulky in the space. So I opted for shelving. Once I put the shelves up, to me, it just didn't do it. It just wasn't enough. And so I went back and I added this custom brass railing just to give the shelves an elevated feel. This is kind of like my drink station. You know, I make my espresso every morning here, make myself a cocktail. I love a coupe glass. And so I like to make myself a nice Manhattan at night over here. And, you know, with me doing a lot of, you know, cooking and entertaining, I needed an area where I can place a nice portion of my dishes. So I store a lot of my dishes here, things for grabbing to get a party ready. And yeah, this is just kind of like my small station. As you can see, this is a really tiny kitchen. So I just have to totally take advantage of any prep space that I have. Like this is my main prep space here. But I think I did a really smart job on configuring, you know, this kitchen. Here I've got, you know, the hood and of course the range. And I just love the detail in this Heston stove as well as the refrigerator here. It almost feels like an expensive car when you touch this. So I cook so much here. I added a pot rack. It's something, again, going back to that English countryside charm. I wanted a vintage style pot rack. I use it every day. Hang all of my items up here. And then of course, you know, another small prep area for me to get things ready. I have the world's smallest pantry that I will not show you, but just know that it's back here. I got some custom fabric from Belgium, and I had the workshop create drapes for me so that I can hide my pantry as well as my new washer and dryer, which are stacked right here. And I thought this was a better use of the space in the kitchen because, like I said before, I'm about to take you to the bathroom, and this used to be a huge washroom, but I just think it's unnecessary. So when you look at the ceiling, once again, trying to stay true to the home and the natural architecture, I kept all the original beams. We added, of course, you know, in between each one of the beams, we did drywall, but I tried to save as much as I could, even the structural beam that needed to go through the top of the refrigerator. So again, every place that I could, I tried to keep these things as natural as possible. And you can see like a lot of these original wood beams, they're not perfect. And that's the thing that I like about this home. The things aren't perfect. They all have a little story to tell. So this is what I like to call my guest bathroom. And this originally started out as a washroom. So this is where the washer and dryer were. And it was just this huge washer and dryer area. And I'm just like, this just does not make sense for me. So what I ended up doing was taking the bathtub that was just, you know, behind here, and I transitioned that into this area here. We took the washer and dryer and put that into the kitchen. Now, I wanted to have a little fun in this space, so I did color drenching and I did this beautiful color called Apollo Blue by Benjamin Moore that I did from ceiling to floor. And then I broke it up a little bit. I worked with Cosentino, and we did this beautiful like Carrera style marble that wraps the entire side of the tub. And this is where guests come and, you know, they take a bath, they relax, and I have a pocket door which separates the kitchen from the bathroom. This here, this cabinet is actually a favorite of mine. This cabinet has been retrofitted. The cabinet is from Our House Furniture, and I took a trip to the Netherlands, and I ended up getting this fabric from, I think it was Amsterdam where I found this fabric, and I had it pleated and turned into miniature drapes. And this is now my kind of like medicine cabinet, and this is where, you know, medicine cabinet, I hide all of my extra blankets and sheets, and it's just a nice purposeful piece that I love here. You know, again, someone who loves to bring in the old and the new. I have this kind of like 1940s, 30s Art Deco inspired light, and this is actually from my friend Shay McGee of Studio McGee, who wrote the foreword to my book. I wanted to support her collection, and I just love how this light kind of like cascades this fun design at night. So this right here was kind of like the star of the show. And I also love that when you're standing in the dining room, you can see it, you know, it's like this halo right over the cabinet here. So this is another portion of the bathroom here. I went with a Shay McGee again. This is a sink basin that she made for Kohler. I wanted to kind of play off of brass. I have a lot of stainless steel throughout this home, but I wanted to add some brass elements here. I love this kind of like vintage globe style light, and I thought this was just like the perfect way to frame this small area. But I'm also in love with the fluting that you see on the front of this unit here. It kind of modernizes what already feels like a lot of vintage items, you know, with the vintage style paintings that I have on the wall. I'm someone who does enjoy an art gallery wall, and it's still growing, so it's not finished. I like to let pieces evolve over time, and so I'll just keep collecting and adding to this wall until I get it to a place where I absolutely love it. But most importantly, I'm in love with the color drenching in this space, and I wanted to keep the drapery pretty light in this space. So I just did a flax linen. I work with the shade store, and they did all the shades in the house. And I just love how, you know, this relaxed room and shade just gives a casualness to the bathroom. So I'm so excited about my new book. It's called The Forever Home, and essentially it's 8 projects that I chronicled over the past couple of years of my design career. But the thing about this book, you know, I run across so many pretty books, and one of the things I was challenged with was to make a book that had accessible design tips. So all throughout my book, I have diagrams to show, you know, the proper rug size, the proper height for drapes, the proper way that you should select hardware and how many inches they should be, you know, top to bottom from the drawer. So I really delved deep and tried to give as many tips and secrets that I could in the book so that people don't make the same mistakes that I did along the way in my design journey, because I made a lot of mistakes, and so hopefully people can learn from the things that I did so they don't repeat them. For me, affordable luxury is important because it's something that's attainable. I work with celebrities, but everyone does not have a celebrity budget. And even contrary to popular belief, when I'm on television, a lot of times we don't have huge budgets. So I want to give people tangible design that they can actually go out and they can shop these things and they can actually do it on their own over the weekend. You know, so many people use these taglines, oh, you can do it at a weekend. And, you know, yes, if you have a team of 8 to help you do it. And so me with a television background, I understand what it really takes. So I try to provide, you know, as much information as I can so that things are not super expensive and that people can actually do the things that I'm saying in this book in the time frame that's listed. So So before I take you upstairs to see the rest of the house, I want to show you my gallery wall, which I have fallen in love with. So a big part of what I do in the antique world is collect artwork, and I try to find pieces that I absolutely love that are really interesting. Like I love this piece because it has this like octagonal shape, which is you know, something that's not really prevalent now. But I have all of these interesting pieces that I've collected along the way. I do leave a couple of empty spots because I want this wall filled with things I love, and if I don't love it, I just will not pick it up. So this wall is filled with, you know, just many things I picked up. This is a piece of artwork of the Luxembourg Bridge, and it's really heavy. It's like a metal plate that's been framed, and I take this everywhere that I go. So as soon as you get to the top of the stairs, you find yourself in my bedroom. So I wanted this space to, again, have that English countryside kind of collective feel. I went with, you know, the original shiplap design. Now it used to be a really dark kind of cherry red color, but I was just not a fan. So I did paint this entire space, but you can see just the angles in this space. Literally, this is like the architecture of the home. I have to watch myself because sometimes I might hit my head in certain spaces. But I've got a lot of artwork, again, creating that same kind of gallery wall look, but on the walls here. I wanted a vintage style headboard, so I went with a metal frame here, and it just reminds me of the bed that my grandparents probably would have had. And I just have a fun couple of accent pillows here. And I'm someone who kind of likes a hotel bed, so I keep everything nice and layered. I don't like things that are matchy-matchy per se, so I do have on the left side here an antique piece that serves as a nightstand. It's actually a storage cabinet from England. And then on the right side here, another vintage piece that I picked up locally. And I just love how they're not exactly the same wood tones, but they still tell the same story. I also love these swing arm pharmacy sconces. These are from Ralph Lauren. And again, I've used these in a couple of designs, and now they're here in my home, and I absolutely love them. I don't have a lot of pattern per se in the house or in the room. And so when I was working with the shade store, I went with this kind of like soft plaid pattern, and it has this plum undertone in the weaving of the fabric here. And I felt like this created kind of like an accent wall when you're looking at my bed. Right next to the bed is a seating area where I do a lot of my work. This is my kind of drafting table. And I found this vintage piece here in Los Angeles, as well as the chair. And I just like to peer out the window. This is where I get inspired when I'm working on client projects. And, you know, I just peer out the window and just enjoy and imagine that I am in the English countryside. So the bathroom is very tricky, or was very tricky. So originally, this used to just be a weird washroom. There was a sink here as well as a couple of shelves. So I don't really know what the purpose was, but I decided this would be a perfect place for me to make an additional bathroom. And so I ended up having to sacrifice the closet in the guest bedroom in order to build out and make a shower. So I wanted to go with like a monochromatic theme, and as you can see, I went with this like really soft sage green that I did for the walls, and then I matched it as best as possible with the tile. And then I wanted to go old school. You know, this is an older home, and so I kind of wanted to play back into that old school kind of like 1930s character, and so I went with this black and white kind of like checkered design here. This is also a favorite piece of mine. I've always been in love with sinks that have, you know, that kind of like pedal base here, and so I got this piece in particular from Kohler, and it's just been a dream of mine because every hotel that I go to that is of this style, they always had it, and I absolutely love my bathroom. This is like one of the first spaces that I actually painted. Actually, I painted this room by myself. This is one of the first places that I tackled when we remodeled the house. People always ask me if I can shower here, but yeah, I can fit. It works. When people first walk into this home, I want them to feel like you're in a cozy, non-stuffy environment. This should be a space that's a retreat from the crazy world of Los Angeles. You know, when you walk into my home, I want it to feel like you've been transported to the countryside. And there's something for me that's relaxing about the countryside, just because you don't have the hustle and bustle, the loud noises from, just urban city living. And that's what I want people to feel as soon as they walk through that door. So the last room in the house, this is my guest bedroom. I have like my parents who come into town, friends who come into town. And here, as you can see, architecture wise, this is the actual side of the house here. And so I found this beautiful headboard that someone was getting rid of on the side of the road. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can make this a beautiful headboard. So I brought that in. And so now I kind of have this like day bed for my guest. I went with a color called Nicholson Red by Benjamin Moore. I just wanted this like really rich color here because the rest of the colors throughout the house are not as strong. And so I wanted something that was extremely bold. And again, I did a color wash from ceiling to floor throughout the entire room. And it's just here, a place for guests to sit, do makeup, do a little bit of work. And it's just a mini cozy retreat. Sometimes when I get bored, I'll come and I'll sleep in this room and I'll watch TV myself, just because it's a really dark, quaint sanctuary, but it does get a lot of natural daylight that just kind of cascades in. But it's the perfect room for sleeping weather. Perfect room. For me, what makes a home feel soulful and, to be alive is when you have pieces that you actually love. I'm someone who doesn't believe that you can curate a space that you love overnight. It has to be things that you have curated over a period of time. It's also things that aren't perfect. You need a few things that have gone through, a few things, like something that's a little chipped, a little weathered. I like things that are imperfect because I feel that there's so much beauty in those pieces. So I think what I like to tell people is when you're putting the space together, you want pieces that really tell a story. And I was always taught that the pieces that I should fall in love with, or that I will fall in love with, would be the pieces that I want to grab if the house were on fire. And that's my thought process when I'm grabbing something. Is this something that I just could not live with, or can I let it go? If I'm on the fence about it, it's not the piece for me. For me, the word home means sanctuary. This is a place where you can let your hair down. You don't have to think about the world. You can just be you, and you are accepted. And home is a place that is sacred. This is your safe haven from the rest of the crazy world.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Brent.
I'm Beau.
Welcome to our home in Pasadena.
Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Brent Poer,
And I'm Beau Quillian.
and this is our dog Sister, and welcome to our home in Pasadena.
We're living in New York. We moved back to Los Angeles right as the lockdown was happening.
On March 16th of 2020, the day the city shut down.
We moved into a rental in Los Feliz in our old neighborhood, thinking that we would kind of plant ourselves back there. Brent made an appointment to see this house without even telling me, and like got up super early on a Saturday morning, like before I even was awake. And then he came home and was running in and was like, I found our house. And I was like, we have a house. We have an offer on it. And he's like, no, I withdrew the offer. And I was like, what? And then he opened up his computer and showed me the house. And I was like, that's our house.
I came on that Saturday morning. I had seen the house on Redfin, and if I'm totally honest with you, real estate is my version of porn. I am constantly looking at real estate. I had been looking and throwing a wide net across a lot of different styles of homes, and I'd sit there and say that we've never had a home of the same style. We are fairly open to the overall kind of like architecture. I think that one thing that is true about Beau and I is there's got to be an essence of a house. It's got to speak to you in a certain way. And so I had seen this house. I thought it was beautiful. I was interested in Pasadena. I didn't really know much about it. And I came over, and the interesting thing is this house was built in 1922. It is a Mills Act house. The Mills Act is a government program that you create a contract with the government. Keeping the house to period on the exterior is a means to keep historic neighborhoods looking, again, like they originally had meant to be. But in return, you get tax credits on this, and so your property taxes are lower. This house had only had 36 people go through it because most people don't want to deal with the government. They don't want to have to put latches from 1922 on the exterior of the house. They want, to do some form of renovation. We really like the fact that this is a historic home. We like the idea of keeping it to period, and frankly, the task of finding latches that came from the period and, doing screens that are, that look like they're from the period, that works well with our form of OCD. I think it was in the house for maybe 20 minutes. And I turned to our real estate agent and said, we're gonna make an offer. And he said, okay. And I said, withdraw the other one, we're gonna make an offer. I'm gonna go home and tell Beau. And he's like, don't you wanna ask Beau beforehand? I was like, no. Beau will be fine. And by the way, this is again the second time I've done this. It was not the greatest example of our partnership. But when we actually came here together for the inspection, Beau started sweating. And he said, we've got to go. And it's like, what is wrong? And he was having a panic attack because he was afraid something was going to be wrong with the house and we weren't going to get it. And we got back to this rental that we had. And I was like, what is going on? He's like, I just love the house so much. I don't want something to be wrong. And thankfully, the house was in great shape, things like that. So, we're able to purchase the house. And it began this little adventure that we've had on how we can turn it into something that we had never imagined. This is the entrance hall, which is my favorite room in the house. A couple things that we kind of love. First of all, this is something that is it's a note that I took off the back of a door in a hotel off the coast of Africa when I was there in 1989 on an island called Lamu. And it says, notice to all guests, drugs and spirits are prohibited here. Prostitutes, beach boys, and homosexuals not allowed in your room/hotel. Nakedness, public exposures of yourselves is not permitted on the roof terrace. Love and fun affairs with the staff of this hotel is not allowed. Thank you, manager. So we always put it by the door when you enter our house. And we think it's hilarious. It reminds me of the trip that I was on in Africa when I was about to graduate from college. A lot of this room started from some gifts that my mother gave to us. She gave us our first pieces of Majolica. The room is filled with French and English Majolica. which we love. It also has these antler trophies that are Black Forest. These come from the early 1900s, and they're Bavarian, and they were generally given as like skiing trophies. And so we love those as well. This is a painting from an artist that we have several of his paintings around the house. His name is Denez de Holsch, a Hungarian artist, and he painted horses and things like that. And again, we've collected many pieces of his artwork. The thing that I also love about this is the shape of it, because it's L-shaped and it's a little odd, but you have this entrance hall piece here, and then you come over here and there's this little quiet sitting room that we love, that also, you get it shaded by the tree with this amazing window. This desk we got at auction. It was actually from a producer that had been working on Hitchcock films. Oddly, it was in Boston, but it had been in California for, I think, in this home in Brentwood for a very long time. And I found it in an auction, and I just thought the kind of like the teardrop shape of it was really beautiful, and it's of burl, walnut, and then it's got a lot of our Black Forest trinkets on top. The painting was part of a gift from my grandmother. My grandmother Gigi left me the contents of her house. She wasn't very rich, and she worked very, very hard, but everything that she had, she put a lot of thought into, and she always made sure that it was the best. And that's a painting of the Blue Ridge Mountains, because she was from Tennessee. We also kind of like the idea of these sconces. They're Spitzmiller sconces, but they're plates. And because of all the other plates, we thought it was a little humorous.
As we're moving in, Brent's like, oh, I found these concrete faux bois I think they're actually outdoor tables. And I was like, we need more tables, what? And I really was resistant. But I think they do look great with all of the Majolica on them. So it's another one of those things where, like, when Brent does something but doesn't tell me first, that means it's going to be a little bit dicey for a minute, but usually I wind up falling in love with it.
But we also had a lot of conversations about the wallpaper. Beau had never seen grass cloth done well. And when we were talking about the entrance hall, I showed him this Scalamandre wallpaper and the grass cloth, and he's like, it's going to look terrible, it's going to have seams all over it. And
well, my experience with the grass cloth was like always, being stuck at like a dreary corporate hotel, and there was some like sad grass cloth hung in the lobby. And that's, I don't know, that's just kind of like what I had in my head.
And you were afraid of all the seams also.
Well, that's the thing. When it's not hung well, it's like all you see are seams. But the funny thing is that because we hang and rehang things so much, it is like really forgiving with a nail. You kind of can hide after you have hung a bunch of stuff and then move it around. This is our collection of tartanware, which Brent's mom, Lulu, turned me on to. I had never seen it before. And it's actually mostly her collection. We started doing a few little bits here and there. And then when she and David sort of downsized, she just packed the rest of her collection up and sent it to us. And it's one of my favorite things. The stained glass bit here is so curious because it seems so contemporary in a way. It doesn't seem like something that you would find in a 1924 house. So it's just another one of those like, it's kind of strange details.
And of course, this door opens up into our living room space. What we love about this is the ceiling height, but also a lot of the details around the room itself. The molding is incredible. It is all original. We love the medallion that's up there. We got the chandelier. It took like 6 weeks for the chandelier to be made and shipped in
6 months.
That's true. I actually thought the chandelier would never show up. And then frankly, I did what I always do, which is like hire a bunch of people to hang it before people come over, and it always makes Beau crazy. The thing that we're also known for is this kind of gallery wall hanging. A tip that I do have, because someone asked me, how do you do this? I always find the centerpiece of art and then start to build off of that. And so with this, we had this very contemporary painting that we loved, that we bought in New York together. And then you start building out from it. And there's a little bit of a journey that you go on, but it's like, how do you start creating a pattern? This is a Francisco Clemente. It is the first nice piece of art that I ever got, and I actually traded 2 pieces of Howard Finster folk art with somebody for this, and I think that I got the better end of the deal. Like the entrance hall, we have 2 paintings by an artist, Zidez de Holsch. This is the very first piece that we got. I had bought it for Beau for Christmas, and I bought it at a junk store on Long Island for like $200. And then we've been able to collect other pieces from this series of his, which is about a circus, at auction. And I believe there are 9 total paintings, and we have 6. My favorite piece of art in this room is something that I gave to Beau 2 Christmases ago. It's by an artist named Richard Haynes. It is a drawing that Beau kind of described, and then I had Richard do it. And he says that the dogs follow me like a school of fish.
I know his work from his fashion illustrations, and I was like, how did you get him to... It was just one of those things that I was just like, how did that even happen?
When we first got together, we were living in New York in the East Village, and we went to a show with John Darien. And it was Natalie Lettay's first show in New York at his store. We were too poor to be able to afford any of her artwork, so we could only get the poster. And so we took it home and we framed it, and we were thinking, oh, this is really wonderful. I was able to scrimp and save. A couple of months later, I was able to get our first piece of Natalie Lettay, which is this piece right here. And what we didn't know was going to start a rabbit hole of all these other pieces of Natalie Lettay that we're going to collect, and it's all over the house. She and I have become friends on Instagram. We DM each other. She's seen, how we've decorated the house with so many pieces of her artwork. In fact, when we got married, she did a little piece for us that is in our bedroom as kind of a favor. But really amazing artist. We love her work, and it's all over the house. One other thing, this is an homage to the woman who gave us the foundational elements of our house, and I believe Beau said it, which is my grandmother, Gigi, gave us the contents of her house. This is the invitation to her invitation-only funeral. We're Southern, which means that we've got a little bit of crazy in us. And she actually, on her deathbed, told my mother that she wanted an invitation-only funeral because she was more concerned about people who she didn't want to coming and being around it. And so, she dictated the actual, copy for the invitation. It had to be on crane, it had to be engraved. It was a cocktail party, and she didn't want anything religious. And she actually asked for a singer. And at the very end of this kind of memorial service, the singer sang the song, "I Did It My Way," which most people cried because they were like, oh, that's so Gigi. But they didn't really understand that she was essentially in heaven giving people the double finger because that's the way she kind of lived her life. And it was her rebellion because you really couldn't control her in life, and you couldn't control her in death either. Staffager is also something you'll see all over the house. My mother is a great collector. She's also an amazing garden designer in Atlanta. My mom, I think, gave me at least my love for English decor. She lived in the UK for 5 years. As she's downscaled her house. Many of her pieces have come into our house. And again, one thing that's also common across the house is that we love dogs. And you'll see a million dog paintings, dog things, dogs this, dog that. But again, the Staffordshire, we have the, the Staffordshire Spaniels and the figures, and it's just a little bit all over the place.
A couple of my favorite things are these horse heads that he found at an auction. He actually found 4 of them. And Lulu, his mom, was like, I'll take 2 of them. And then they arrived, and one of them came broken. But there is this incredible woman at the Pasadena Antique Center. I just thought, let me ask her if she might know somebody. And she actually has an incredible restoration guy that's like in Eagle Rock. It's not very far away. And I can't even tell now which one of them it was that was broken.
That one. Also, one little other thing that has been in all of our homes is this want and need. Our first Christmas, I started this, and I had wrapped Beau's Christmas presents in this theme that was like want and need. And we do this every year now. There's always something that you want, and there's many things that you probably need. And so we kind of split things up as we give them to each other. It's like, this is a want and this is a need. But we always keep them out to remind us of our first Christmas together.
That was a Christmas present from Brent to me. It's a print of a collage that Gloria Vanderbilt did that is signed. It's actually a picture of her as a child with her Irish nanny. And I always loved it.
Well, we saw the documentary.
And I was like, feels like we should have a piece of Gloria Vanderbilt's art. And somehow Brent managed to find a signed print. And then this is actually his mom. That's Lulu. That was a study for her, a portrait? It wasn't...
No, she was posing for a portrait artist. And this was a friend of hers that had painted her when she was sitting for that class.
The dogs are not chill, cute, like lay around the house dogs. They're all like insane. They're crazy, and so it's the monsters collectively. The house falls somewhere between that kind of like historic revival movement. It's like technically, I think people refer to it as a Normandy-style, but it also leans into that kind of storybook movement that was like sort of particular to LA in the 20s and 30s, I think, that I've always kind of been obsessed with. So as we started kind of thinking about things, we just kind of let the house kind of sort of lead us around a little bit. I mean, it is funny. The thing about Normandy architecture is like everything is a little bit off center and kind of almost cattywampus in a way. Yeah, so we just let it kind of tell us in places kind of what to do.
We knew the house was going to play to our style. The thing that was going to be a little hard for us is it was the first time that we were merging 2 homes together, because we had an apartment in New York that we had moved out of that was essentially furnishing our rental home. We had a second home, which was on Long Island in a town called Aquabog. And those 2 decors had never been merged together. When we moved the things from Aquabog to LA to move into this house, there was a little bit of a puzzle that we had to put together. Beau and I have, I'd sit there and say, things that we like a lot. We like the color blue, we like the color green. There's some things that are, I'd sit there and say, standards on the way that we've always approached things. We knew that we had a ton of art that we wanted to display. The walls, especially in the living room, were going to be incredible for that. And I think the other thing is that there was so much wall space around this house that we knew it could be a great canvas for a lot of our things. We have a lot of plates that are hung throughout the house. We took some risk on things. We did some things that we've never done before. we had some, I'd sit there and say, set patterns that we had established where we made some changes to how we thought about trim colors and things like that. But a lot of it is our decor and our style put together. And it just allowed for us to go a little bit wilder than we ever had. This is our dining room. We had a lot of conversations about the wallpaper. It's a Scalamandre wallpaper called Jardin de Chine in a color called Jade. We paired it with the fabric on the chairs that is the inverse, and it's in a color called Spring. And I actually think it turned out better than we ever imagined. And I think it's way more us to begin with. This table right here came out of a real junk store on Long Island. It was $300. It was covered in plates and it had a bunch of things stacked up on it. And Beau still doesn't understand how I saw it through all of these.
It was bare. It was like buried.
And it's octagon. It's such a strange shape. It's actually a game table. And it weighs a ton. And it's like we had it delivered, and it's just like amazing. We love it. It's perfect for a table of 8. The other thing is, again, for my grandmother Gigi, she loved hair in China. She gave us our first part of our place settings of hair in China, and then we've collected around it. The blue ducks came from Gigi as well. The chandelier I got on eBay, to tell you the truth, and I spray painted it, as well as the sconces on the wall. And then one other little random detail is this is a portrait of my mother. When she was moving to England, they took the Queen Mary, because again, back in the 60s, it was the easiest way to get to the UK. And they were at dinner one night, and this man walked up to her, and he said, "You're so beautiful that I drew you on my napkin." And if you look at it, you can see the damask in the napkin. She is an amazingly beautiful woman, and it is so odd how many people have come up to her and said that she's beautiful. Beau remarks on it all the time. He's like, it's so strange that people just walk up to you and say that you're beautiful. But again, just little stories and things like that that are part of the history of our family.
Another thing I do love about this room is, which I don't feel is super common in older houses, that there are these kind of like built-in china cabinets. It seems unusual to me that they would have had that much forethought. And again, the room is not, the house itself is not very big. It's actually super compact, and so they were very clever when they were designing to think about things like that, as opposed to having a piece of furniture that you would put the china in.
So come on into the kitchen. This is actually Beau's domain. I really have not much to do in here. Beau's the cook in the family.
Well, that's not true. He's the baker, actually. I'm not good at the baking stuff. It's like too much chemistry. He's better at that, at this kind of precision stuff. But we painted the cabinets. They were actually this color. Again, though, I would like to thank whoever did these cabinets at some point, because they really kind of like thought about all the details. And we really had like a moment of, when we were redoing it, we replaced the sinks and the countertops, and we were like, should we keep the second sink? But it was actually, I'm glad we did now, because it's like, we'll have a party, have a bunch of people over, and it's like, I'll make a giant pot of greens or something, and so it's like I can have the greens soaking, or we can just fill it with ice and put like beer and wine, and sort of like use it as an open ice chest. The oven was here as well, and it's sort of like, it's a little bit of one of those like throwback 90s things, when like everybody in their lofts in New York would just like do up the kitchen from like the restaurant supply places down on the Bowery. It was tough to get used to cooking on it because it's a restaurant stove, so it's like super hot. It's, you know, meant to turn things out really quickly, and I'm like a low and slow guy. I'm sort of self-taught, or as I say, I like to say that like Martha and Ina taught me to cook. One of the things that I love is our friend Anthony is a potter. Well, he's actually a television producer. But there is this fried chicken place on San Fernando Road, kind of between Glendale and Burbank, that looks like it's probably been the same since like 1967. And I used to love, they still do those big paper buckets. And I used to keep one up there because I thought it was so charming looking. And then he made, on his pottery wheel, he made me one and painted it himself. And I love it. It makes me very happy.
These Delft tiles are something that is a little trick that I figured out. So we were doing over the kitchen, we wanted to add some Delft tiles. They're like $300 a piece. So I decided that I was going to try something as a test, and I did screen grabs and then had them printed at Zazzle. And they're ceramic tiles that are screen grabs of antique Delft tiles that we then had printed. They were $11 each. They even printed some of the crackle in them. No one would know. And I just think that it's like a great little hack, to tell you the truth. One thing that we've done in all of our kitchens is this brass detail, so it looks like campaign furniture. I install all of this myself. It just takes a steady hand and a drill, and you're gonna make a million little holes. But it is something that we love, and it's kind of like one of our signatures that we've done in all of our kitchens.
The first time it was like a lot of him like shouting and cursing, and took like 2 days. And then the second kitchen that he put it up in, it was like up in an hour. He's like professional with the brass trim. And then, so the artist Natalie Latte that we love, she actually did a deal with Anthropology where she did all these plates for years now, and we collect them as like a drop comes out. This is the one thing where like Brent had like sent her a picture to be like, look what we did in the kitchen, and she was like, it's a little obsessive, but okay.
It starts off as one, and then you are like, I need 100.
And then his mom will come in and she'll be like, I would like the kitten and the spaniel, and so then we will send some down to her as well.
And now we're entering our den. When we first looked at the house, this was I think it would be considered a third bedroom. They had a little twin bed here. We knew that we wanted to turn it into a den. We love this Benjamin Moore color. It's called Polo Blue. It's like this deep, dark blue. We wanted it to be kind of dark and like really calming. The dog drawings in here started again as a gift from my parents as well as my grandmother. It's one artist. His name was Leon Danchine, and he did all of these etchings of hunting dogs. And every one of these drawings, even the one that's in the Samsung The Frame, is from Leon Danchine. Different spaniels and hunting dogs. We just love it. Then another little trick is Japan has an amazing resale market. Culturally, Japanese people believe that items carry the energy of the previous owner. So these are Hermes dog plates that I have collected from different dealers across Japan and in Tokyo, and been able to kind of obsessively collect these at really great prices.
Because people in Japan don't want to buy.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
No, that's true.
It's true.
I'll buy it.
100%. So again, Japanese like resale market is kind of amazing. We, again, did a lot of Englishy little things like different textures and patterns of this tweed. We love this room. It's really quiet and cozy, and it's a place where we can kind of sit back and relax. I am an advertising executive. I work for a company called Publicis Group. I kind of grew up for most of my formative years in New York City, and this is the second time that we've lived in Los Angeles. The first time that we've lived in this section of Los Angeles in Pasadena.
I am a freelance fashion editor and stylist. I spent most of my career working on magazines, also from the South. Brent's from like fancy South. I'm from the redneck Riviera in Florida. And I moved to New York when I was 18, where we met.
So the story that we generally tell is that I went on a date with his best friend, and in the middle of the date, the guy said, "You're not for me, but I know who you're for." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh my God, you're regifting me?" And he said, he's like, "Oh, don't take it that way." This crazy thing is that Beau and I had probably been in so many different rooms over the course of our years in New York and not run into each other. But it took this person to introduce us, and we found out that not only did we live across the street from each other in New York, but his best friend's husband had gone to high school with me. We had so many different intersections, and I think that we probably met when we were ready to meet each other. Let's take you upstairs. Dinesh de Holsch, again, one of these artists that we have continued to collect. I love this piece here. It's Damien Hirst. I was in the UK working, and this is something that he had done as a print that he actually distributed via, I think it was the Times, and it was like a limited edition that was printed in the newspaper, and I brought it back for my trip and framed it. I just love it. Natalie Latte, again, this Keep Calm and Call Brent was a gift from one of my clients. She said that I was always the person that she would call in an emergency. We got this painting, which we believe is attributed to Egon Schiele at a junk store in Long Island. It had come out of an estate. We love the little Juliet balcony up here. The gentleman who built this house apparently used to have a lot of parties. He owned a music store in Pasadena, and he had a lot of parties. And I always kind of imagine him with a bunch of people down here, and it was probably like, during Prohibition, and there was throwing like some wild party, and him like making some speech up here. But it's just such a great view of the living room from up here. The other thing that we have, because again, we're insane. These are all urns of our past dogs. They were made by an artist whose name is Alice Torres. She did individual portraits of each of the dogs with their names on it, and their ashes are in them. We also have a wall of portraits of all of our past dogs from an artist named Carter Costera, who's a friend of mine. And his thing is that he always does a silhouette, and then you write something, some crazy kind of like a story or, thought about that. And it started with my first French Bulldog, Libby Rowe, and she has two names because she's from Texas. Then the second one was Beau, because he's my best thing. And then we just had every pet and every other member of our family have a portrait done. These are special Staffordshire type dogs. I was working in London for the 2012 Olympics for a client of mine, and I met this artist whose name is Rob Ryan, who had done a series of different prints and woodcuts and these super intricate paper cuts. And he was expanding into pottery, and he'd done these Staffordshire dogs, and I just thought they were like really modern kind of twist on the Staffordshire dog, and I loved them. And Beau and I were lucky enough to get 2 sets of the dogs and 1 set of the cats that's in our guest house. Our bedroom, of course, is covered with a ton of art. This is a little bit of our, I'd sit there and say, homage to the fact that we grew up in New York, our formative years, and it's got a lot of street art. It kind of started from the fact when we were living in New York, there was a guy who was doing these wood cut rubber duckies and hanging them from telephone poles. And when we first moved to LA in 2008, we showed up and there were the same rubber duckies hanging from telephone poles. I somehow found him at a store in Sunset Junction and was able to buy one from him, and then I framed it and gave it to Beau for Christmas. We've got these skulls. Beau loves skulls and crossbones. I don't know if you should marry someone whose favorite sign is the international symbol for poison. But, I was like, okay, fine. He likes a skull and crossbones. And so these skulls, I saw this young woman doing these wheat pasting skulls down on the Lower East Side. And I said, do you do any other form of, fine art? And she was like, yes, this is where you can get some prints. And I've got these skulls, and they represent spring, summer, fall, and winter.
And then weirdly, that landscape belonged to his grandmother.
My paternal grandmother.
Yeah. And it's very classic, but for some reason, we always like it in here with all of the sort of like crazy contemporary stuff.
Well, I think it feels like when it was painted, it was probably very contemporary, and it was probably one of the most contemporary things that she had in her home. And so I always thought it was a little odd that she had loved it, and we've always had it in our bedroom. These are the swizzle sticks that Natalie Latte did for us when we got married, and one says Mr. Brent and the other one says Mr. Beau, and it was a gift to us. This is the primary bathroom. When we bought the house, we were incredibly lucky that they had done the renovation beforehand, and so the bones were all here. I had this idea, because we've got the street art and the wheat pasting art in our bedroom, that we should do something kind of wild, and I showed both this splatter print wallpaper that was from Wall Shop. It's by Chris Benz, and I believe it's called Pratt Paint. And I just thought it was great, and Beau was like, it's gonna be a lot. It is a lot, and we just kind of love it, and it makes me happy every day that I come into it. We paired it with the black and the brass, and it feels super contemporary for this house, but we love it, and it's also just like a real punch of color. We are not afraid to do some wallpaper that is a little out there.
I liked it from the jump. It is incredibly bold, but then I got my head around it because we were big fans of the decorator Dorothy Draper. She was sort of known for doing super bold wallpaper, and I thought, if Draper were alive today, she probably would be doing something like that. Anyway, that's how I rationalized it and was like, yeah, let's do it. And I love it. It's hard to pick just one thing that I love about the house. I don't know if I have any one sort of favorite thing. But again, I love the kind of like storybook of it all. It feels a little bit like a fairy tale house in a way.
My favorite thing about the house, I love the entrance hall. It is an odd shape, it's L-shaped. It is I think it's an incredibly welcoming space, and you walk in, and I think it kind of establishes a little bit of the tone for the rest of the house. And I don't know. Every day that I walk into this entrance hall, it makes me feel happy. It's a place that I feel is really relaxing, to tell you the truth. And I just love the look of it. And again, when people walk in, they're always like, wow. The wow can mean a lot of different things. If it's a long wow, like wow, they tend to like the house. But if it's a short wow, they're like, wow. And that means that they're probably a minimalist and they don't like anything, and this is overwhelming.
I mean, it's crazy. We understand. Like, there's a lot of people that walk in and they're like, oh, these guys are crazy. But it's also, I think, kind of what happens when you're together for more than 20 years and you don't have kids.
Just get a bunch of stuff.
It goes someplace else, I guess.
Our guest bathroom, one of the things, again, it probably feels like we're a little too themey, but this is a lot of photography from Beau's career. I particularly love this. Beau is an incredibly sentimental person, and when he was at Harper's Bazaar, he collected all of the Polaroids from behind the scenes of his shoots. This is part of a session that's with Amber Valletta. Not only the fitting pictures that they did for this bathing suit shoot, but also some of the things on location. Unfortunately, a lot of these got wet and when our storage space was flooded, and so I was kind of pulling these pieces apart and they were decaying, and I thought they looked beautiful, so I had them framed for Beau. And we're moving into the guest room. Again, more wallpaper. This is a beautiful Schumacher wallpaper called Bermuda Blossoms in a color called Slate. It reminded me of something that my mother had in her bedroom. And I love we love hydrangeas. I'd never worked with gray before, but we love the green. And again, it feels incredibly calming and welcoming. It's paired with a bunch of other items that had come from my grandmother Gigi. This was her original settee, and a pillow that we love. You know, there's always a lot of Southern wisdom that has been needle pointed on a pillow. This says, if we could see how we looked through someone else's eyes, it wouldn't do a bit of good. We'd never believe it. And again, wisdom through needlepoint. We love this room. It's great for guests, and it just gives them enough room to be able to kind of like settle in. But it's also a very calming space, and it looks out over our garden. People really do like to stay here.
Oh, Brent found these funny ginger jar lamps with these dancing monkeys on them. And then randomly from some other place found these like monkey finials. It was very funny. When we were first together, he was like, I hate whimsy. And I was like, but do you really though?
I don't like the word whimsy. I like a little bit of an irreverent wink. But again, this room we wanted to do pattern on pattern on pattern and make it like really play with the wallpaper and the fabric. And it just feels really inviting and relaxing. And that's kind of what you want guests to feel when they're in your home. Speaking of the garden and the fact that the guest room looks over it, why don't we head outside and I'll show you around. So this is our backyard and garden area. We were incredibly lucky that it came with this overall kind of like cooking area setup. It's great for parties. My mother is a landscape designer in Atlanta, Louise Poer Garden Designs, and she's incredible and amazing and has always been a big inspiration. She taught me a lot about the idea of creating structure in a garden, and one of the things when we bought the house, the previous owners had just had a child. The yard wasn't a real focus for them. I was able to come in, and I like to do this myself. Beau's like, you work hard enough, why do you like to do this on the weekends? It's like, I like a little manual labor, and you also get a sense of satisfaction that you've been able to do this. But I came in and was able to take what was already here, which was the privet, and then start to create all the structure around it. One of the things that is like I've learned from my mother is the idea that green is a color. Most people don't think of it that way. They want to put a lot of colors in a garden. We really don't like a ton of color overall. It tends to be green and white with other little, pops of color overall. But again, we were able to come in. I've been able to establish a lot of the ferns,
Put all the pea gravel down.
Pea gravel, all of the roses that are growing up on what is now the guest cottage, and really kind of give it this Englishy flair that goes along with the rest of the house. The fountain, if you ever have a fountain, they're great. They make wonderful noises. They're really big upkeep, but we love it. I'm generally trying to like suck all of the things out of it so that the filter doesn't get too clogged. Lemon trees in California are amazing. This thing is currently just producing a ton of lemons. It's great when you have a party, but also you can make and bake like lemon cakes with it, which we do every once in a while.
A cat came with the house. That's Kit.
MR, Mr. Kitty, came with the house. When we first moved in, he decided that he was going to start hanging out here. My thing, as I said to Beau, was like, don't feed that cat.
Because I, of course, went and got cat food, and then Mr. Don't Feed the Cat, then it's like the first big rain that we had, it was like cut to, he puts them in the garage overnight with like a litter box and a heated cat bed.
The one thing that I think is so incredibly special is, again, we brought two homes together, and we were able to merge it very seamlessly. And the nicest thing that Beau has ever said to me was one night we were sitting in the living room, and this was probably 2 years after we'd moved in here. And he just had been looking around and he was quiet. And he looked at me and he said, I had never imagined in my life that I'd live in a house this nice. And you did this for us. And I think it's the greatest compliment that he's ever given me.
I mean, it's pretty extraordinary in a lot of ways. We're having our contractor do some touching up of paint stuff on the outside. He was saying, things are in really, really good shape. He's like, but you guys are smart to really kind of keep everything sort of like touched up and on point outside, because he's like, if one of these window frames or something, if something ever happens to it, would cost a fortune to replace some of these things. It is like kind of one of those things where you couldn't imagine it being built today, because some of the details and would just be so enormously expensive to produce today. Yeah, it's just a really special place. We love it.
And this leads into our guest house. So this is the guest house, formerly the garage. When we bought the house, oddly, it had a toilet and a sink in it. It was always the ambition to turn it into a guest house. We had a little bit of a nudge, which was a couple years ago, the day after Thanksgiving, my father fell down the stairs and pulverized his C1 and was in the hospital in Pasadena for 3 weeks before he could go back to Atlanta. And so we didn't want my parents to be up and down on the stairs anymore. So we wanted to make sure that they had a place to be able to stay when they came and visited us versus being in a hotel. And so it kind of sped up our idea of converting this and making sure that we could have a space for them. You'll see some more wallpaper. I know, people must be thinking wallpaper, wallpaper, wallpaper. This is actually Natalie Latte, surprise. It is a mural that we bought, 2 rolls of this mural, and our wallpaper hanger is probably one of the most talented people I've ever met, and was able to figure out how to stretch it into the space overall.
Well, we originally bought it to do the powder room downstairs, but because it's a mural, and that room is so small, he couldn't do it without it having a repeat. But he was able to hang it as a mural here because it doesn't really need to.
I'm kind of a thrifty shopper. I know what I like. I was able to get this beautiful marble sink on Etsy. It is from Turkey. It was $500. And then $500 to ship it. Every time I looked at it at a store, it was going to be $3,000. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I love this faucet. I think it's hilarious because of the black forest. It's a deer with antlers, made by some guy that I found on Etsy also, and he's in Morocco. Toilet was here, but we of course upgraded it, and then the thing is that we added was Beau figured out how to be able to change the layout enough to add a shower. As we head into the bedroom, There was formerly a ceiling in here, and we blew out the ceiling. The chandelier, the antler chandelier, came from our house out on Aquabog, and we'd never been able to find a place to hang it. I'd also found these sconces that are resin that have deer's head for our house on Aquabog, and they were going to be great in this room. We added the trim, and then we did the built-ins. The built-ins they're IKEA. This is what's called a PAX hack. They're PAX wardrobes that then we added trim, and it's a fast way to be able to do built-ins. For the guy who didn't want the cat, we created a special litter box holder. He can jump into the hole and use the litter box. And Mara stays out here during the night. One of Beau's, again, the skull and crossbones, another Christmas gift one year. And then we love this Black Forest lamp, standing lamp. A friend of ours found it in a junk store in Texas Pictures.
It was a church thrift. And he found it for like $250, and he was like, do you want me to pick it up for you? And I was like, yeah. It's a giant thing, and it comes apart in pieces. I think it was originally like a coat rack. And then he had it in his garage for a bit, and then he was like, you guys have to come and get this because I've been looking online and I could sell it for $15,000. So you better come get it. And we got in the car and went right over.
And again, just curation of a lot of little things that we love, some more Staffordshire, the Staffordshire cats, because again, well, the house is the dog house. We jokingly say that this is the cat house. And, again, some, dog fabrics, that's Schumacher, I believe it's called Hound Meadow. We found that and loved it. But the PAX hacks, this is a great little way to create built-ins, because this is like PAX wardrobes and Billy bookcases, and it just goes in super quick and makes it really affordable and easy. For guests, when they come and stay with us, there's a refrigerator, we have a full bar set up for it. There's even a microwave and some things like that so that they can have their own space. They don't need to feel like they need to come into the house if they don't want to. Surprisingly, we've had a bunch of people who've stayed with us recently, and it really makes it easy to have guests because they're able to be out here, have their own space, and they don't feel like they have to talk to you. If they're staying here, they can come in when they want to, and they can also have some private time by themselves. But we love the space. The green is an amazing color. It's Fairmont green, it's Benjamin Moore. It is really soothing. And the thing that's also really nice, well, the fountain is hard to upkeep. When you go to sleep in here, you do hear the fountain at night, and it's a nice way to go to sleep.
This was the first piece of kind of real art that I ever had. This is a sculptor called Reinhold Marxhausen. It was given to me when I left for New York when I was 18 by a friend of mine, Jan Sawyer. And it's a sound sculpture. This thing that just looks like a lump of weird something, and then it just makes this extraordinary sound. It's one of my favorite things. It's called a stardust, actually. So Jan liked to joke that she packed me off to New York with the stardust in my pocket.
I think home means that it is a place that has our dogs. It's a place where Beau is. And frankly, the things that tell a little bit of our story in the 23 years that we've been together. The thing that I love about this house also is that there is a story behind everything. The art and everything that we have here, we can tell a story of where we found it, who gave it to us, and it's all incredibly meaningful. And so I think home is really a repository of our memories and our relationship.
One of the jumping off points for us was that Brent inherited the contents of his grandmother's house. And so there was that kind of backbone of kind of antiques and bits of porcelain, and his parents are very dear and they've been super generous. And so it's like like you said, like everything sort of has a story, like that's from his mother Lulu, or that belonged to Gigi, his grandmother.
We bought this at a certain place when we were on a trip.
So anywhere you look, you're sort of like reminded of a great story, or the thrill of finding something incredible in a dusty junk shop.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to Homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Camille.
And I'm Marco. Welcome to our first home in Cardiff by the Sea.
Come on in. We'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Marco Meza-Ruiz. I'm a real estate developer. I'm the founder of my own development company called Meza-Ruiz, and I'm also work with Camille in our interior design firm called Camille Alexandra Interiors.
Hi, I'm Camille Meza-Ruiz. I'm an interior designer. We live here with our Australian Shepherd, Zuri, and this is our first home. But right now we are sitting in our entryway of our home. It's a pretty small home. It's 1,200 square feet, so it's our entryway and also kind of our living room, all in one.
So a little bit about our home. We live in a 1,200 square foot townhome here in Cardiff by the Sea. Cardiff is a small beach town in San Diego County. It's roughly like 2 square miles just along the coast. And Cardiff is really special to me. It's where I grew up. It's my grandparents first immigrated here from Mexico, and their first home that they purchased was here in Cardiff. And my family has, never really left. And so we love it here. I had such just fond memories growing up. Like I said, a lot of my family grew up here. My mom's one of 6 and my dad's one of 10, and I have like over 50 cousins, and a lot of them lived here and to this day still live here. We have cousins and aunts and uncles that live walking distance from here still. So when we were looking at buying a home, those things really matter to us. Our family really is important to us, and we're trying to figure out where to start kind of planting roots. And I shared some of my stories with Camille of growing up, and we just, loved it, and we tried to buy a home here. And so 7 years ago, we purchased this home. We've been working on it ever since. We started with absolutely nothing.
Like no furniture.
Yeah, basically no furniture, no nothing. We saved up as much money as we could and put it all on our down payment, and then had to start over. And we had like no furniture because we were living with our parents, and before then we were in college. So we literally had no dining table, no sofa, no bed even. So our first nights here, we had a fold-up table that I borrowed from my parents, a couple fold-up chairs that we threw in the living room, no TV, and I brought my air mattress. And so we slept on an air mattress for a few days and ate takeout, and started with nothing. But over 7 years, we've saved and budgeted well and planned out this home, and I think we've done a great job. Camille's been fantastic in the design and leading all that creative, and I helped execute it and put it together.
So Marco and I have been together for over 10 years now. We both went to USC for college, and so that's where we met. We met at a fraternity invite for his fraternity, so super classic college story.
So I needed a date, and I asked one of my friends if she had any friends that would be interested in going to invite with me, and so she asked Camille if she was interested in going, and she said yeah.
Yeah, it was one of my best friends, Yasmin, who also knew Marco, but I didn't know Marco. I had never met Marco before. And so Yasmin was going to the invite, and so she asked if I wanted to go as well with Marco, and I said sure. So we got ready, and then we went over to Marco's fraternity, and that's where I met Marco for the first time.
We met for the first time in the hallway of my fraternity, and so I think it's a really funny and kind of cute story because we were all dressed up nice. I was in a suit and tie, and she was in a beautiful dress, and we were just in my fraternity hallway, and it was just like reeked of beer, and there was just beer cans everywhere on the floor and loud music playing. But I thought, it was just really cute, and I just never, knew that I was just looking at who would be my future wife for, and we'd be together for 10 years, and she'd be my future wife. So I think that's awesome.
So we got engaged when we were on a trip in Spain in 2019, which was great and fantastic, but then it quickly turned into 2020, which was COVID. And so we were just in the beginning of planning our wedding when COVID kind of happened. And so we were trying to decide if we wanted to kind of wait it out and have a wedding, or if we, just wanted to do something small. And so I feel like I kind of had a moment of realization that COVID was going to be around for quite a while, and so we decided to just get married in 2020. We got married in November on our dating anniversary, which was nice. So it was our 7-year dating anniversary that we got married on. And so since it was so small, we just had immediate family. There were 15 people total, and because of that, we were able to have the wedding at my dream venue, San Ysidro Ranch, which was awesome and so beautiful.
I had a lot of different ideas of how to propose to Camille. I knew I wanted to do it abroad. We love to travel. We've been traveling together since we graduated, every year to a new country we haven't been to. And so I knew I wanted to do something like that. We were in Spain in 2019, in the fall of 2019. And I had a bunch of ideas of where I could possibly do it, but I didn't really have one set in stone. And so I kind of just felt it, and we were just walking in Madrid one day, and we decided to get some like charcuterie and cheese and have a picnic in Retiro Park in Madrid. And I just kind of had a feeling I might do it then. And so we walked over to this park, and we just had wine and charcuterie because Camille loves that. And so I just proposed there. It was beautiful. It was in fall, and the leaves were turning different colors and falling. And yeah, I just fumbled my way through it. and she said yes, and yeah, it was perfect for me.
Welcome to our entryway. So this is the entry to our home. I think, like I mentioned before, it connects to our living room. It's a small space, but I definitely wanted to have a dedicated entry space in our home. And so some of the things I'd like to point out here is this big art piece. I knew I wanted a large abstract art piece here. I knew I wanted it to be neutral because I do like to swap out flowers and different decor seasonally. And so I actually painted this piece myself. My mom's an artist, so I'm really fortunate that original art is something I've grown up with. And so when I knew I wanted a really large piece here, I decided to give it a try. And so I bought the big canvas, and I painted it this neutral beige color. And then I just kept sending my mom photos of it as I would do more and more layers to say, oh, do you think this is enough yet? Do you think it's enough? And she basically kept saying, add more layers, add more layers. And so it's just a ton of layers of paint and pastel and pencil, just all built up until it finally felt complex enough that it had enough depth that it felt complete. And so I got the frame for it, and then we hung it up, and it's been here ever since. So I really love that piece. Other things in this entryway, this lamp here is one of my favorite finds. There's a consignment store about 5 minutes from here called Consignment Classics that I go to all the time. And this is probably my best find ever at Consignment Classics. It's an alabaster lamp. It's super heavy, and I got it for $60, I think, and the shade was horrible, so I threw that away and got this new shade for it that I think is so cute and unique. So yeah, that was a great find. Also, I mean, I love putting fresh flowers here. Like I said, I change them out seasonally. These I got at a Carlsbad flower market, which just has a ton of different flowers you can choose from. So that's always fun to swap things out there. And then another thing that I did is I really liked hanging these market baskets over here by the front door. We went on a trip to Provence a couple of years ago, and I just kept seeing market bags everywhere in Provence, and then I would see photos of homes in Provence that had just tons of market bags and baskets all by the door, and I thought that it looked so beautiful, but it was also so practical. You can just grab one and head down to the farmer's market, or we like to take them to the beach. So that's something I did that I think looks really beautiful, but it's also super practical.
My favorite part of this entry is definitely Zuri's little dog bed. We are obsessed with Zuri. Ask any of our family and friends, and we're just completely obsessed with Zuri. We're the luckiest ever. She's just the sweetest. So I love it, and Zuri obviously loves it. She's always, hanging out there, and it's her little domain. She's got a domain in every single room in the house. She's got a bed. I also really love this seascape here. It's an original piece that we got in Laguna Beach at First Thursday, and we just love art. It's something I didn't really have when I was growing up, original art, and I'm just super thankful that Camille introduced me to that, because I just am obsessed with the art now, and it just really brings in that human element to it. You can kind of feel a lot of times the brush strokes in the paintings and stuff. So it's great. One of my favorite things to do with Camille and just anyone is to go to the beach, and we just live a mile from the beach, and so we're always there, and we like to just watch the sunset and collect our seashells. So some of these have just come from our local beaches here in Cardiff, but some of them have come from very far away. Some of them have come from the beaches of Normandy and also New Zealand, and probably others, but I don't remember right now.
I would say I make most of the design decisions, being an interior designer. Marco definitely has opinions, which I welcome. It's been a journey since moving in to learn how to work together and work with each other's style. But I think we've, in recent years, gotten into a good groove of making style design decisions together. I think that the style of our home is, it really tells our story, and that's, I think, the most important thing when you're designing a home, especially for me as an interior designer. I want to make sure that any home I design, including my own, tells the story of the family that lives there. And so for us, there's a lot of different components to that. So I moved around a lot growing up. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and all of my family's from Indiana originally. And then I moved to the West Coast when I was in high school. And so I think throughout the home you can see little elements from all of those different places, which I really like, and it makes it really unique to us. And then also I think our home is really collected, and so we've incorporated pieces that we've got throughout our travels or that we've just collected over the years. So that's something that I really wanted to emphasize in our home. And then I think our home is also has coastal touches. I think it's important for a home to reflect the environment where it's at. And so since we are so close to the beach, I like to incorporate little nods to the ocean and the coastal area. And right off our entryway is our living room. When we moved in here, one of the challenges with this space is that there's not a ton of natural light on our first floor here. And so a lot of the renovations and things that we've done have all been with the goal to make it as light and bright as possible. And so when we moved in, this built-in was here, which I loved. It was one of my favorite things about the home. But it was a really orangey colored wood. And then the flooring used to be a grayish tile, and the walls and the ceiling were painted the same beige color. So it was different, and it just felt really dark. And like I said, not a ton of natural light. And so over the years, we've slowly made improvements. And so we painted all of the cabinetry white. We added the tongue and groove in the room to help brighten it up as well. We painted the ceiling a light blue color, which is one of my favorite touches. It's Faro and Ball Borrowed Light. And then we also changed the flooring to be this like light oak flooring. So all of that makes it feel a lot brighter and a lot more happy in here, I think. And so with the built-in here, I love built-ins and bookcases that are just filled with books that look really lived in and collected. But with that, it can get pretty busy quickly if you're not careful. Books are really colorful, and it can start to feel overwhelming. So one thing that I did on our built-in here to try to combat that is I repeated the same cream-colored bone picture frames throughout to help try to calm down all of the colors of the books, as well as all of the photos that I put in the frames are black and white, again, to not bring in too much color into the bookcase. And so that helps it to feel cohesive throughout, but also, like I said, to tone down the busyness of the bookshelves. And then what else do we have here? We have some really nice artwork. So this piece up here, my mom painted. I mentioned she's an artist. This is of the beach here in Cardiff. So this is the beach that we go to whenever it's a nice sunny day, which is pretty frequent here in San Diego. And we love going here. Zuri loves being here as well. So that's always fun. And then I have a couple other art pieces. This is just a nocturnal seascape that I got at a thrift store or something. I don't even remember. But I saw it and I loved it because I didn't have any nocturnal seascapes. So that's really cool. And then another thing that we've done, so we live in a pretty small space here, and we don't have a dedicated bar area, and we don't really have room for a whole bar cart or a bar setup. And so we decided to take over this little corner of our built-in as our bar area. And so we added this big wood tray and then just put a ton of bottles on it, and it works really well. So we were trying to think creatively to how to use the small space to fill the void that we had of not having like a dedicated bar area or a large kitchen or things like that. And then in the living room here, as we mentioned, we wanted to keep our furniture really flexible. We didn't want to have a big sectional that really defines your space. We wanted to keep it so that we can move the chairs around as needed for different events that we're having. And so right now the seating is kind of in a more conversational layout, which is really nice most of the time, but sometimes, if we're watching a game or anything, we'll move the chairs around as needed, which is nice. These chairs I also got at Consignment Classics, my favorite place, and I refinished them into this dark brown. When I got them, they were white and the paint was chipping everywhere, and the cushions were dark green and not very cute. So I got them, I refinished them, and then I had the cushions made. And then one thing that I've made the mistake before is when you're putting chairs directly in front of a built-in, it can be really tricky with scale a lot of times because the built-in is table height. So sometimes your chairs, especially a lot of chairs nowadays, feel really small. And so the taller table height of the built-in can make your chairs feel especially small. And so when I had the cushions made for these chairs, one thing I did is I Wanted them even a couple inches taller than the back of the chair so that, you know, they would feel like the right scale with the built-in behind it. And then, yeah, we just have this coffee table. I really love this marble coffee table. It's a great piece. It's incredibly heavy. It's a nightmare to move, but it's very sturdy. And then we have this super comfortable sofa, which is great. Most of the time I actually have a quilt here on the seat of the sofa because it's one of Zuri's favorite places to sit. And so it doesn't get too dirty. It's a performance fabric, so it's actually been pretty good. But the quilt does help to just make it easier to throw that in the wash rather than having to wash all of the cushions all the time.
So my favorite things to do here are just have people over and host. We just have a big family and we just love to have everyone over. Like we've mentioned, it's a small space, so we had to be really careful about everything that we picked for this space and make it as like flexible as possible. So we have a lot of like chairs here and some like in other little areas throughout the home, and we just kind of bring it all together for things like a USC game day. We just have all our friends over and kind of like move it all towards the TV, and that's just been really fun. It's super easy to just kind of move them around, and it's great because we really can fit a ton of people in here. Like I think we've had, I don't know, like 20 people, maybe. I don't know, maybe not 15 people come and watch the games with us, and yeah, it's been really fun. I also just love this couch. It's so comfortable, and it's just like it serves a bunch of different kind of uses, like just hang out watching TV, but it's also like I love like laying on sofas and so especially with Zuri, and so we just usually like every weekend we kind of always have like a time where we just hang out here and just chill together, and it's one of my favorite things to do. It's one of my favorite parts of the home. And like, as you know, we're just so obsessed with Zuri. We have a portrait of her that Camille's mom did for us, and it's actually a photo that we have from just one of our trips to the beach down here, and she's just like having the best time of her life, just, you know, smiling, and yeah, she loves the beach. She's like always smiling when we go there.
Okay, so another thing that we did in this space, as I mentioned, there's not a ton of natural light, and so we wanted to add a Dutch door that had a window at the top so that we could add more natural light in here. And also Dutch doors are just so cute and they bring so much character to a space. And so yeah, I love it. We painted it this light blue color. It's Pharaoh and Ball light blue. And it's great. It's just really cute. We ended up choosing this home primarily for the location. So we knew we really wanted to be in Cardiff. And as Marco mentioned, it's a pretty small community. So there's not honestly a ton of choices of homes in Cardiff. And so we pretty much had narrowed it down to this specific development as to where we wanted to be. And so at that point, it just kind of became a waiting game, and we were waiting for different properties in this development to come onto the market. And we saw one or two, only one. We saw one or two before we saw this one. And it was hard to pass them up, and it was definitely a big struggle of if we were doing the right thing, but it just didn't feel 100% right. And then when we saw this home, we purchased this home from the original owner. The home was built in the 60s, so having one owner for that entire period of time was obviously really unique for this area too. And that was something that we really loved about this home because it had been the same owner the whole time, and so we could tell and you could just feel that the home had been really loved and taken care of, and so that was something that we were looking for. And so while we picked this home, style-wise it didn't mesh with our style at all. Like I said, it was an elderly man who lived here before, so not quite our style. But yeah, it had been really well taken care of and kept up, and so we loved that. My advice for new homeowners who are starting with pretty much nothing would be to Invest in really classic pieces. Furniture is so expensive, and so I think that if you are making sure that you're using your money wisely and you're purchasing neutral and really timeless silhouettes of furniture, I think that that's a really good way to go. And then if you do want to have some trendy pieces, buy those more cheaply so that if you want to get rid of them in 5 years, you don't feel bad.
Something that we did that was really helpful for us is just really planning out what we wanted to do every year. Every year in the beginning of the year, we would come together and just kind of plan out what improvements and what furnishings we wanted to buy for that year and set aside that money for it. As I've mentioned, we started with nothing, and all our money went into the down payment. So we really had to do it over time because we just didn't have any other options. And so that's advice I would give to any new homeowner, is just take that time and plan it out and budget for it, because it will happen, over time. It won't happen right away, but over time, I think you really start to really, learn about each other and grow together as a couple, and you can kind of collect that journey that you've experienced over time, and you can really bring it into your home. And so that's something we've done, and I think that's really helpful advice for other people.
Another thing would be, don't rush to fill your rooms. It's even hard for me because you want your room to be done and complete, but I think that it's really good to be patient and wait for the right items, and don't just rush to get it done with whatever's available or what you can afford at that moment. I think it's okay to have rooms that are empty or halfway done and just wait for the right pieces to come along, and then in the long run it'll cost you less because you did it right the first time, and you'll love it that much more.
I guess one other thing that I think is really good advice is to really ask for the help when you need it. I think if you need interior design help, you should really, consider hiring an interior designer, or if you need some help with a contractor or with construction, hire a contractor. I think it's really helpful to kind of, build that team and get that expert help when you need it. I know it's tough when you first start because you're just really having to be smart with your money, but I think it's some of the smartest money you can invest in is in an interior designer, because you're really just doing it right kind of the first time. It's really helpful to really just understand yourself and the journey and what you're trying to portray, and it's just you're doing it right from the beginning, and you're learning how to invest wisely, your money, and you can just do it over time. And I think it's just really, really valuable. That just pays dividends in the long run. It really just helps create that better home for you that you will love and you'll just have, forever. And now we'll just walk over to our dining room.
Okay, so this is our dining space, and the first thing I'll talk about here is this art piece. And so I knew I wanted another abstract art piece here on this wall, but I wanted it to be different from the one in the entryway. I wanted it to be much more geometric. And so I started researching different abstract art, especially geometric, and I wanted something circular for some reason. And so I started learning about this artist. Her name is Hilma Off Clint, and she was actually one of the first abstract artists. She's not that known about, at least I didn't know about her, but she has these really stunning, way ahead of their time, circular paintings. And so this one was inspired by her. She has a very similar one that I loved, but it wasn't in the colors of my room. So I created this one that's really similar to hers, but in the colors of our whole space down here. And so I really love that piece, and I love the way it turned out. And then another thing, one of my favorite things in the whole house, I would say, is this wicker pedestal and urn. And this is actually a fun story. So my old interior design boss bought it for me. that's definitely something I learned, that working in interior design is a huge perk, because your boss and your coworkers know what items you're obsessing over and what you really want to have in your own house. And so for Christmas one year, my boss bought me this pedestal and urn and surprised me with it, and it was just the best gift, and I'll have it forever.
And over here, you just have a couple other art pieces. This one, Camille's mom made for us as well. It's a plein air art piece, and she's all over our home. She's a great artist, and she's so talented and can do like so many different things. And so this is just a seascape, another seascape, just to bring kind of that coastal touch to our home. And then over here, we found this when we were traveling in Belgium. We were just kind of walking the streets of Brussels, and we didn't even like plan this, but we just stumbled upon, it seemed like their design district off these like couple of streets in Brussels. And it was like stunning. Like the stores, the boutiques were just like so special. Like we've been in like France and like England and Spain and all that, and just like this couple of streets in Brussels was just so spectacular, the stuff that we were finding. And we unfortunately couldn't like afford a lot of them. There were some really, really cool pieces, but we found this at a kind of antique store, and it's just a simple kind of sketch of a street in Brussels with their with the home. And so we just fell in love with it, and brought it back with us. So we always try to, on our travels, bring like some element. We have some stuff like some table runners from Peru, and we just love to, like, when we go, just kind of bring something from there, but just in a very like classic and timeless way, so we can just always have it throughout our life together.
I think my favorite room in the house, I would say, is our kitchen, just because my favorite activity at nighttime is to dim the lights, turn on the music, pour some wine, and just make a really fantastic dinner. It's just something that really relaxes me and gets me in the best mood. And so I think because of that, the kitchen is my favorite space.
My favorite space is, it's really hard for me to say which is my favorite place, because Camille's just done such a fabulous job everywhere here. Like, I love every space for different reasons. Like the living room, for example, I love it because I get to cuddle with my dog, my Zuri, like every weekend on our little cloud couch, and super comfortable, and I just love hanging out with her, cuddling up with her. I also just love the kitchen. Camille's just done such a great job, like bringing so much life in there with her design, just kind of bringing in some of the touches from other parts of the home, and just making it really feel very homey in that kitchen. And just love it because everyone just goes to our kitchen. We have a big family, and we just have a lot of people over, a lot of friends over, and it's just been really fun. And like everyone says, everyone just goes to the kitchen and just to eat, and food's just really big part of our life. We love making food for our family and friends.
This is our kitchen. This is my favorite space in the house. We recently redid the countertops, which was really exciting for me. That's something that I had been looking forward to doing since we moved in 7 years ago. So we finally did that a couple months ago. We went with a Carrara marble, so I love the way it turned out. And also, one thing that I always try to do in kitchens is to make them feel really homey. I don't like it when kitchens feel too sterile. And so I like to do that by bringing in rugs and lots of lamps and other things that are typically more thought of as items that belong in a living room or a bedroom, but I like to bring them into the kitchen as well to make sure that your kitchen has the same cozy feeling as the rest of the house. And then another thing to point out in here that I did, also to kind of create the cozy feeling, was I hung these baskets up here from the ceiling. And there's a photo, well, lots of photos of Martha Stewart's first kitchen at her house in Turkey Hill. And she has, the ceiling is just covered with baskets and copper pots, and it's just stunning, and I have been obsessed with it forever. And so it's my dream to one day have a pot rack with tons of beautiful copper pots like Martha. But for now, I had to go for the baskets, and just to give it a little bit of the cozy feeling and a nod to Martha Stewart.
This is also one of my favorite rooms. It's where Camille makes her fantastic roast chickens and her chili for game days, and it's just like, she's just a wonderful cook, and I'm super happy and lucky that you know, she makes all this stuff for us. And so one of my favorite things here, like we were saying, is just, you know, having people over, and we created a cookbook club, or we host a cookbook club with our friends, and you know, everyone just brings a dish over. We first pick a book, and then everyone kind of picks a recipe from the cookbook, and we come together here, and we just kind of put it all here on this peninsula, and just enjoy that together. And it's been really fun to see all our friends go from real amateur college, you know, cooks to like being really good cooks now. And so it's been really fun to kind of see that journey. One of our favorite cookbooks that we've done for Cookbook Club is this one here. It's Ina Garten's cookbook, Cook Like a Pro. This was really fun because like Ina Garten's like the best. She's so good. Every recipe she's done is just like spectacular. So it really made our friends look like professional chefs, and it's totally just due to just Ina Garten having the best recipes. So this is one that we've really liked. We've done one of our friend favorite was a Hawaiian cookbook that we had, and so that was really fun. We did like the whole spread with all you know, the porks and the rice, the salads, the mac salad, and so that was really fun to do. But we've done so many. We've done like Mexican cookbooks, we've done like Christy Teigen, we've done like so many, and it's just been really fun. All our friends just, you know, love it, and they are always asking to do it more, so that's been really fun. I've grown to love together is just, you know, the food, like we've been mentioning, and traveling. And so one of the ways that we do that together is just when we travel, we go to some great restaurants around the world. And so right here we have a menu from the French Laundry. We couldn't travel during our honeymoon because we got married in 2020. So we decided to just go up the coast and go to Napa, Sonoma, and Big Sur. And so we went to the French Laundry, and we also went to Single Thread. And yeah, that blew our minds because it was the first time we had gone to a restaurant like that, and it was just so much fun.
Now we'll head up to our guest bathroom. It's a small bathroom, but we did a couple of really fun things in here. First being that I painted these stripes on the wall myself. It was a ton of work, but I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. So that was a fun touch. And then something else that we did in here that I love is when we did the kitchen countertop downstairs, we had to get 2 slabs, and so we ended up with some extra marble. And so we did the countertops up here as well. And then instead of just doing a traditional backsplash, I wanted to do a shelf. I thought that it would be a really fun and interesting detail without adding a ton of cost for the fabricator because it's so simple. It's really just 2 pieces of marble that they essentially glued together, but it just adds something fun and it makes it look a lot more custom. I think to me what gives a home soul is kind of what I said before about how your home should tell the story of you and of your family. and to me that's through art and things you've collected and books and photos and things that are meaningful to you. So to me, I think that's what really gives a home personality and makes it feel kind of like its own character in the story.
And just, I think what always brings the home soul is just that human touch. And so whatever, you like to do in your life or what's important to you should really just come out. So family's huge for us. And food is huge in our life. And so we've kind of done a lot in the kitchen in terms of that, and just having like our small space, being very flexible to be able to just incorporate all our family. So what I think brings soul to a home is just really just bringing in a lot of those things that you love in your life, and with your wife and your family, and your dog, Zuri.
So this is our primary bathroom. It's an exact mirror image of our guest bathroom. So I ended up doing the same thing with the marble shelf here that I did in the other bathroom, and I love it. And then in here, instead of the stripes, I wanted to go for a trellis pattern because it kind of ties in the themes that you'll see in our bedroom here. Now we'll head over into our primary bedroom. So this is our primary bedroom. I really wanted this space to feel really cozy, and so I wanted to paint it a darker color actually, as opposed to the downstairs where everything is light. So we painted this room Pharaoh and Ball French gray, which I love. It's just a beautiful, dusty, cozy green. And then I wanted the bed to still really fresh and just kind of like a cloud you wanted to jump into. And so we have a lot of white bedding, but then we also have this quilt at the foot of the bed because Zuri does love to sleep at the foot of our bed. And so the quilt kind of helps so that it's not white bedding that we're concerned she's going to get little paw prints on. And then we have this beautiful art piece above our bed that my mom painted as well. This is of San Ysidro Ranch, which I mentioned is where we got married. So this is actually the ceremony site at San Ysidro Ranch. It's just the most beautiful property up in Montecito, and they have the most beautiful gardens, and there's mountains behind the property and the ocean out in the distance, and it's just the most stunning place. So it was a dream to get married there. Also in this room, we have a couple of these chinoiserie panels, which I got from Etsy, which they turned out really nicely. They're hand painted, and I love them. It's my dream one day to have a full chinoiserie wallpapered bedroom of blue panels similar to this. But for this house, we weren't going to wallpaper the whole room, so I just got a couple panels framed. So it still gives me that feeling without having to wallpaper the whole space. And then over here for one of my nightstands, I've always loved skirted tables. I think that they're so pretty and feminine, and so I thought that it would be really fun to do one as a nightstand. And they're also a really cost-effective way to have a really upgraded, upscale looking side table. And so I just bought the fabric and had a local seamstress make the tablecloth for me, and I love the way that it turned out.
One of my favorite things that Camille does throughout our home is just bring in a lot of candles. She loves like bringing in that layered lighting, that ambient lighting. And so right here we have just a Joe Malone candle, and it's, especially, it's very special to us, this candle. It's actually our scent from our wedding. And Camille just had this fabulous idea of just going to Joe Malone and like finding her scent for our wedding. I had no idea that was a thing. And it was just really fun because like we love it, and like our whole family, we only had 15 people there due to COVID, or else it would have been like 200-300 people with my family, whole family. But it was just a really nice touch, and our whole family has these candles. They've asked for them, and so we gave them some as a gift. And it's something Camille does all the time in her you know, in our projects with our clients is just bringing that personal touch. It could be like a candle like this from someone sent, or just, you know, layering in that lighting. It's super important for us in our projects. It just really creates a very like homey space. It really safe space. It's space that really inspires you. Just really creates a great environment for you to just do, you know, whatever you want to do in that space. So that's something that I just really love, and that she has them sprinkled throughout the home.
And this is our patio. It's really nice having this outdoor space because we don't have a ton of eating space inside, and so it's nice to have a little bit of a larger table that we can eat at instead, or we can have overflow guests out here. But we still wanted it to feel just as comfortable as the home and cozy. So I did that by bringing in pillows and tablecloths and lots of layers on the table to really give it interest and make it just as homey.
So we always eat out here, just us two or with our family and friends. Like if we have a lot of people here, we definitely have to kind of come out here as well. But it's just so nice just living in San Diego. It's, you know, the stereotype of it being always sunny and 70 is like pretty true. So even in the winter, it's like you can use this space all the time. So we love coming out here, and we just kind of love what we did out here. We love like gardens, and in our future home, in our dream home, we already envision just having like a vegetable area, you know, a flower area, a cutting area, just a bunch of trees, fruit trees. Something we just really love, just that element of nature. We even bring it inside with all our flowers and our trees inside the home. And so we kind of wanted to do that out here as well. It's not like a big space, and we don't have that ability to have our dream garden, but we kind of did it as best we could here with just layering it and layering it with trees and plants. So yeah, we love like hydrangea, so we have some of those, which is great because they, you know, do really well with you know, not as much direct sunlight, which is a challenge we had to overcome in here, but we've done well. It's thriving, a little too thriving sometimes, but it's good. And so we also just grill a lot here. We have a little grill, and one of our favorite things to do is to grill Cardiff crack. It's tri-tip from our local seaside market here. It's like famous. It's the best tri-tip you'll ever have, and they call it Cardiff crack.
So when we moved in, this little bar shelf was actually here under this window, and it's super fun because if you open the window here, you can just reach straight in through to the kitchen, which is super fun and also convenient and practical when you're hosting. Home to me it's a backdrop for your life, really. And so for me, I want my home to be a space that feels comfortable and cozy and safe, but also I really want it to be beautiful. It's nice having a beautiful backdrop for your life if you can. You know, I have the constant Nancy Meyers movie playing in my head of where I want my life to look like a Nancy Meyers movie, and I want to have friends over and have dinner parties and you know, have it just feel really picturesque like it looks in my head.
What home means to me is just a place where you can grow as a person, as both personally and professionally, and also just grow with, you know, your partner and your family. And I think Camille's just done such a great job doing that. You know, you're just gonna have this, you know, long journey in your home with yourself and with your, you know, with your partner and your family, and it's just great to have, you know, a space that really just helps you through that journey, all the ups and downs. And I just, you know, I just love our home, and I feel like Camille's just done a great job.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to Homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.